Okay, let's be real. Running a small business can feel like a roller coaster. One minute you're riding high on excitement and big ideas, and the next you're staring at a to-do list and your bank account wondering, am I really cut out for this? Sound familiar? Today, we're diving into something every entrepreneur faces, the temptation to quit. Why do so many people give up early? And more importantly, how can you make sure you're not one of them? The truth is, success isn't about avoiding the challenges or hurdles, because quite frankly, that's just not possible. Instead, it's about setting yourself up to weather them. And I've got some insights, hard-earned lessons, and practical steps to share to help you build a business you'll love and stick with, even on the hard days. I'll also be sharing a story from my first ever business that I did walk away from, a cupcake venture that taught me more about what not to do than I ever imagined. And perhaps if someone had pulled me aside from the beginning and said, "Hey girl, here's the deal," things might have turned out differently. So wherever you're listening from, if you have that hint of doubt creeping in around you, I want you to know this. You're not alone, and you're capable of so much more than you think. So let's dive in, and by the end of this episode, I promise you'll feel more fired up and focused than ever. Welcome to Thrive Anyway, the podcast for creative entrepreneurs with big dreams who know that success isn't a straight line. It's a beautifully messy journey. In case we haven't met yet, my name is Mandy Dobosenski, a busy Midwest boy mom and recovering perfectionist who turned my creativity into multiple six-figure handmade and print-on-demand businesses, generating over $1 million in revenue along the way. From the big wins to the messy middles and all the lessons and laughs in between, we're here to show up, take action, and prove that no matter what life throws at you, you can thrive anyway. Let's get into it. Did you know that nearly 20% of small businesses don't make it past their first year? And by the 5-year mark, that number jumps to almost 50%. I was honestly shook when I heard these statistics, but even in my own travels and conversations with other small business owners over the years, it makes sense. Those statistics can feel daunting, but here's the thing. The reasons behind them are often preventable. Product-based businesses in particular, even ones without inventory like print-on-demand or digital products, come with their own unique challenges. Whether it's staying on top of customer trends, dealing with slow sales periods, or navigating the endless cycle of creating, listing, and optimizing, it can sometimes feel like you're just spinning your wheels. But here's what I want you to know. They're normal. And they definitely don't mean you failed. In fact, so many entrepreneurs quit right before they've gotten to the good part, that moment where things finally start to click. It's like planting a garden. You spend weeks tending to the soil, watering it every day, and wondering if anything will ever grow. Or if you're like me and don't exactly have a green thumb, you might even have some plants that die a few times and you have to start over. But just when you're ready to give up, you see that first little sprout, and then another, and then another. And soon, you've created something beautiful. And guess what? The garden still needs care and attention, even after it starts blossoming. The same thing happens in business. If you can push through the tough beginnings and learn how to navigate the ups and downs along the way, you'll start to see the fruits of your labor. Before we take a deeper dive, I want to share a little story about my first business. For those that don't know my history, you might be surprised to know that my very first venture was a cupcake business. Think back to 2011 when we were in the peak of cupcake mania. We had cupcake wars, we had baking competitions on the Food Network, we had cute little boutique bakeries popping up everywhere. Everyone wanted beautifully decorated cupcakes for weddings, birthdays, you name it, and everyone wanted a piece of the action. At the time, I was working full-time in HR, and baking was my creative outlet. I was inspired by the buzz and baking trends, and I started experimenting. There's only so many cupcakes a girl can eat though before it gets a little ridiculous, so I started bringing them into work and sharing them. At one point, someone said, with a mouthful of chocolate peanut butter bliss, "You could totally sell these." And y'all, that was the entrepreneurial itch that I did not know needed scratching. The demand was there, and I loved the idea of combining creativity with starting a business. I didn't know anything about it, but here we were. I'm telling you, I put the cart so far before the horse and thought, ooh, maybe someday I could have my own little bakery before I'd even sold my first cupcake. Spoiler alert, I learned the hard way that some things are just better left as hobbies. I still remember spending hours in my tiny little kitchen at the house we were renting, baking batch after batch after batch of cupcakes. I'd come home from work, throw on my apron, and dive into the latest order that primarily came in through word of mouth. At one point, I even blogged about them on a website that, yes, actually still exists. I checked. I had business cards and order cards and stickers and all the fancy tools and carriers. I did birthdays, I did weddings, I did baby showers, the whole kit and caboodle. And I did it for almost 2 years. The thing about hobbies turning into businesses, though, is that eventually you realize when people want to buy cupcakes from you, you have to make them whenever other people pay to have them. They don't care if you're tired and you had a crappy day at your day job, or that some nights you might not feel like it or want to take a weekend off. There was one wedding in particular that nearly broke me. Hundreds of mini cupcakes. I even took days off at my job so that I could work on them right before the big day so that they were fresh, and spent entire evenings hunched over cutting out intricate little fondant flowers by hand. My neck was constantly sore, my back ached, and my arthritic hands were shot. On top of that, there were oops batches. Cakes that didn't do what they were supposed to. Frosting that separated, or flowers that broke, and I'd have to start all over again. And no, it's not because I'm a terrible baker. It's because these are things that can and do happen when running a baking business. If you've ever watched a baking challenge, you know that things go wrong all the time. Problem is, I wasn't thinking like a business owner, and I hadn't really planned for any of that to happen. At first, I told myself this was the hustle it took to succeed, and I truly did love it for a fair amount of time. The thing about handing someone a pile of cupcakes is that it always puts a smile on people's faces. Have you ever looked at a cupcake and felt sad? Probably not. And I loved making beautiful, tasty creations that made people happy. But the cracks started to show after a while. I was exhausted, cranky, and worst of all, I started to resent the very thing I once loved. When I delivered that wedding order, I should have felt proud, but all I could think was, man, I'm glad that's over. And when I finally sat down to do the math, after avoiding it for a bit too long in the process, I realized I was practically paying people to eat my cupcakes. Between the cost of premium ingredients, packaging, and hours of labor, I was pretty much working for free. Looking back, I can see exactly where I went wrong. I had fallen victim to unrealistic expectations, burnout, and profit problems, and like all at the same time. I thought my love for baking would carry me through the tough parts, but I hadn't planned for the reality of running a business. I didn't properly price my products. I didn't set boundaries for my time, and I didn't realize how important it was to love the process, not just the end result. Ultimately, I walked away from that business, and part of me at the time definitely felt like I had failed. And here we are, more than a decade later, and I still have a hard time bringing myself to make anything that resembles a cupcake. But the truth is, it wasn't a failure. It was a series of lessons that shaped all of my future businesses. And over the years, I've learned that these common lessons, painful as they sometimes are deeply connected to why so many others quit far too soon in the journey, like I did. And that's what I want to focus on for the rest of our time together. And quite frankly, why I wanted to start this podcast in the first place. The beginning of starting a business is exciting. The success that you get along the way is rewarding. But that middle part, that's where things get a little messy. Being able to navigate that, though, is what determines whether someone walks away, simply survives, or truly thrives. Now, there can certainly be a variety of situations, but from my own experiences and the thousands of different small business owners that I've connected with over the years, there's 3 big challenges that tend to throw up roadblocks and result in someone wanting to quit. So let's break those down first, and then we'll talk about some strategies for making sure that you are prepared to navigate them and thrive anyway. One of the biggest culprits is unrealistic expectations. Many people start their own business or even side hustle thinking it will be easy or that success will happen overnight. Social media in particular makes entrepreneurship look glamorous. And when you see that, it's easy to think that success comes quickly, that you'll be hitting 6 figures in 6 months if you just work hard enough. But the truth is, true entrepreneurship is a marathon, not a sprint. I don't care what you're selling or the service you're providing. What makes this worse? Comparing your day 100 to another person's day 736. You scroll Instagram or TikTok and you see someone talking about their viral product, not realizing that this same person spent months, maybe even years, posting products that didn't sell. You often don't know their journey that got them to that point. You don't see the hours they spent agonizing over research and testing keywords or tweaking their designs until something finally resonated. It's like comparing your day-to-day struggles to someone else's polished highlight reel. It's never going to feel like a fair fight. So let's break this down. Have you ever started a new project? Whether it's a product line, a niche, or even just a batch of listings, and felt that rush of excitement, that this is it, this is the thing that's going to take off type of energy. And then when it doesn't blow up immediately, you're left wondering, what did I do wrong? That's where unrealistic expectations come in. They make the natural ups and downs of entrepreneurship feel like failures when they're really just part of the process. Even with my cupcake business, I saw all of these glamorous new shops popping up, these cute little bakers making their happy little desserts. They made it look so easy. Another layer to this is the belief that you're going to love every part of the process and that it's always going to feel like rainbows and dollar signs. But let's be real. Who loves tax season or dealing with admin tasks that pile up? I sure don't. The truth is, while you don't have to love every single part of running a business, you do need to find joy in the bigger picture and the mechanics of what you're building. Many sellers mistake those moments when things feel tedious or frustrating to mean that they're on the wrong path, when in reality, they mean you're doing the work that lays the foundation for future success. Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn, once said, "Starting a company is like throwing yourself off the cliff and assembling an airplane on the way down." It's messy. It's challenging, and rarely as quick as we're led to believe. And here's the kicker though, that's okay. Those messy parts, the slow starts, the learning curves, the mistakes along the way, they're all part of the foundation that you're building. The next culprit on our list of heavy hitters that can lead to entrepreneurs walking away. It's a big one. Burnout. Let's be real. Running a business is a lot of work, especially in the beginning when you're wearing all of the hats. If you're not careful, it's easy to overcommit and burn out. A 2023 survey from Small Business Trends found that 60% of entrepreneurs report feeling overwhelmed by the demands of their business. It creeps in fast, and you don't always see it coming. But what really drives a burnout? It's not just the long hours. We do that all the time in our day jobs, right? It's often also due to the lack of balance and clarity. For many entrepreneurs, it starts with the pressure to do everything perfectly. It's different when everything is sitting squarely on your shoulders. You tell yourself that if you just hustle hard enough, success will follow. But that hustle often comes at a cost. Late nights, skipped meals, missed family time, and an endless feeling that you're never doing enough. Been there. And honestly, I still sometimes land there when I'm not paying attention or start feeling the pressure to take on too much. It's a very real fact of being a small business owner, and it's something we all have to navigate. In fact, I truly think we self-inflict a lot of it on ourselves as entrepreneurs. Now, I work primarily with print-on-demand sellers getting started on Etsy. And a story that I hear time and time again, for example, is a seller launches their business full of excitement, determined to make it work. They stay up until 2 a.m. designing, listing, researching keywords, starting a social media account perhaps, all the things. They're answering emails during dinner, constantly checking analytics, and refreshing their shop stats like it's a lifeline. At first, it feels productive, like proof they're putting in the work. But after a few weeks, those cracks start to show. They're exhausted, they're cranky, and feeling disconnected from the very passion that led them to start the business in the first place. And then there's the guilt. Guilt for not working hard enough, for not spending enough time with loved ones, or for feeling like you're falling short no matter how much effort you put in. That guilt compounds the exhaustion, turning burnout into this vicious cycle that feels impossible to escape. The truth, burnout doesn't happen because you're not cut out for this or because you're doing it wrong. It happens because you're human. It's a signal, not a verdict. It's your body and mind saying, look, sister, something needs to change. Remember, you started this business for a reason. If you can reconnect with that why and give yourself permission to rest and recalibrate, burnout doesn't have to derail you. It can be the turning point that helps you create a business and a life that truly works for you. Which brings me to the final item on my list, profit problems. Here's a fundamental truth about business. If it's not eventually profitable, it's not sustainable. According to the U.S. Small Business Administration, poor cash flow is the number one reason small businesses fail. And on the other side of that reality is that the average small business doesn't become profitable until about year 2 or 3, sometimes even longer for product-based businesses. While business models like print-on-demand or digital-based online businesses often have the advantage of lower startup costs because there's no inventory, which is one of the reasons why I love it, it's still essential to have realistic expectations and a long-term view of profitability. Because while it's normal to not be profitable right away, you do eventually need to be profitable. Last time I checked, that's kind of the point. Before we go any further, I want to make one very important distinction though. There's a difference between making no profit and reinvesting the profit you're earning back into the business. Early on, it's common to take what little profit you're generating and channel it towards tools or a mentorship or product improvements that help your business grow. For example, investing in advertising or marketing dollars, upgrading your product photography or mock-ups, or taking a course on social media strategies may temporarily reduce your take-home profit. But these steps are investments in the future growth of your business. Think of it like building a strong foundation for a house. You're not just spending money, you're putting resources into things that make your business stronger, more efficient, and better positioned for long-term growth. This mindset shift, understanding that growth requires investment, can help you feel less discouraged if you're not pocketing big profits in the early stages. The key is to make intentional, strategic choices about where to reinvest, ensuring that every dollar spent aligns with your goals. So then, what do I mean by profit problems? Ignoring the numbers because they're intimidating or discouraging. I've seen entrepreneurs who have no idea what their profit margins are or who price their products so low they can barely cover their costs. It's an easy trap to fall into when you're trying to stay competitive or attract customers. For example, imagine you're selling your primary product for $20, thinking it's competitive and affordable. But after fees, production costs, and shipping, you're left with just $1 or $2 of profit. Or worse, a loss. It feels disheartening, but raising your prices seems risky. The truth is, pricing isn't just about covering costs. Remember, it's about reflecting the value of what you're offering. When you underprice, you're not just shortchanging your profits, you're also signaling to customers that your product might not be as valuable as it truly is. It's not just disheartening, it's unsustainable. It's a common scenario, but it doesn't mean you failed. It means it's time to fine-tune your pricing, budgeting, and overall strategy. Similar to my cupcake business, right? I was not pricing it properly. I was comparing my boutique style cupcakes to a Walmart pricing strategy. Totally different and not at all fair pricing. In many cases, this can also stem from a lack of confidence in raising prices. Many business owners worry that if they charge more, they'll scare away customers or lose out to competitors. This fear can lead you to underpricing, undervaluing your work, creating this vicious cycle where you're working harder but barely covering your expenses. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Do not race to the bottom on prices, even if you're in a competitive marketplace like Etsy. Focus on knowing your customers, creating products that they want, and the rest will follow. Profit problems, in a way, also tie back into our conversation earlier about unrealistic expectations. Many new business owners assume that sales will automatically translate into profit, but that's rarely the case without careful planning and confidently knowing your numbers so that there are no surprises. And further, if you're hesitant to price your products in a way that reflects their true value, you're likely leaving money on the table. Confidence in your pricing strategy is crucial, not just for covering costs, but for ensuring you can reinvest in your business and can eventually start paying yourself as well. This balance between pricing for profit and reinvesting strategically is key to building a thriving business. Now, if any of these challenges resonated with you, you're not alone. The truth is, nobody starts out as an expert in running a business. Most of us stumble into it, full of excitement and big ideas, and only realize we're facing these potential roadblocks when we're already knee-deep in them. It's easy to feel isolated or like you're the only one struggling. But let me reassure you, These experiences are incredibly common. So, how then do you avoid the pitfalls that cause so many people to quit early? Here's the truth: you don't have to navigate these challenges blindly or alone. Every entrepreneur stumbles at some point, whether it's struggling with unrealistic expectations, feeling the weight of burnout, or battling profit problems. These aren't signs of failure, they're opportunities to learn and grow. The good news: there are practical steps you can take to not only sidestep these issues when possible, but to recover and rebuild if you're already in the thick of them. Let's break this down into 7 steps to really help nurture a business you'll stick with. Number 1, get clear on your why. Your why is your anchor. It's what keeps you going when things get hard. Ask yourself, why are you starting or growing this business? Is it financial freedom, creative expression, flexibility for your family, wanting to leave your day job? What is that why for you? Could I have fixed many of the challenges I was facing in my cupcake business? Of course. But I was also missing one other really important element: my why. That thing that makes your heart sing and pulls you through the inevitable roadblocks. I learned that my hobby should have remained a hobby because when I got started in the first place, I had no real why attached to it other than funsies. And because someone said, hey, why don't you sell them? It's probably not a good enough reason. You need to put a little more thought into it than I probably did. Your why isn't just a fluffy motivational phrase. It's a practical tool. Think of it as your North Star. On the days when nothing is going right, when the sales are slow, the designs aren't clicking, and you're questioning if this is even worth it, your why is what helps you push through. For example, if your why is providing financial freedom for your family, you can remind yourself that each small step forward is bringing you that much closer to that goal. If your why is simply creative expression, then even a tough day becomes part of the bigger picture of living a creative life. Write down your why somewhere you'll see it often. Maybe it's a sticky note on your desk or a reminder on your phone, or maybe it's a vision board of what you're wanting to own or experience in the future. When the challenges come, and they will, my friend, this will ground you and remind you why you're doing this in the first place. And remember, your why can evolve. It's okay if what motivates you changes over time. The key is to keep checking in with yourself and staying connected to what truly drives you. Number 2, start small and build systems. Don't try to do everything all at once right out of the gate. It's one of the quickest ways to feel overwhelmed. And let's be honest, burn out before you even really get started. Instead, focus on mastering 1 or 2 things at a time. Whether it's one product at a time, one niche at a time, one social media platform at a time, or learning one new skill at a time. Focus and then build systems to make those processes repeatable or automated along the way once you've figured out what works for you. Simplicity will be your best friend. When you start with one thing, you not only build skill and confidence, but you also create processes and systems that can be scaled later. For example, if you're focusing on marketing, maybe you dedicate time to mastering one platform like just Pinterest or just Etsy ads. Once you've got that system down, you can then expand to other platforms with confidence. A quick action step for this: write down the top 3 areas where your business needs the most attention right now. Circle the one that feels most impactful and focus on just that one thing for the next month. Set clear, manageable goals like learning how to use an automation tool or designing a batch of products for a single niche. Then, once that's working, move on to the next area. Remember, success isn't about doing everything perfectly. It's about doing the right things consistently and well. Number 3, set realistic expectations. Understand that success takes time and it's rarely a straight line. Think about it. No one plants a seed and expects a full-grown tree the next day. It takes watering, sunlight, and a whole lot of patience. The same is true for your business. But here's an important twist. When setting goals, focus on what you can control. That's what makes them realistic. Goals like reaching 100 sales are motivating, but they rely on factors that are sometimes outside of your direct control. Instead, aim for goals like creating 50 listings in the next 3 months or posting on social media 3 times a week. These are actionable steps that you can take ownership of and that directly align with your larger vision and lead to those extended results. Your goals should stretch you and challenge you to grow, but they also need to be realistic so you're not setting yourself up for failure. For example, if you're balancing a business with a full-time job, aiming to create 100 new designs in a month might not be that achievable or realistic for you. Instead, focus on something that pushes you without overwhelming you. Perhaps creating 50 new designs per month is going to be far more realistic for you. The key is to find that sweet spot between ambition and realism. And here's the thing. Avoid setting expectations based on someone else's journey. It's so easy to fall into the comparison trap, especially when social media is full of overnight success stories. But remember, everyone's path is different. The business owner who seems to have it all figured out now probably struggled just as much as you are, if not more. And you never know, they might still be struggling. Your goals should reflect your own priorities, resources, and timelines, not someone else's highlight reel. As you set those goals, celebrate when you hit each milestone and use those moments as motivation to keep going. Sold your first product? That's worth a moment of pride. Reached a milestone in listings? Celebrate it. These small wins are what build momentum and keep you motivated. Remember, small steps add up to extraordinary results, and the journey is just as important as the destination. Number 4, prioritize profitability. From day one, think about how you are going to make money. Know your numbers. What does it cost to make your product or deliver your service? What are you charging your customers to cover that cost? What's your profit margin, meaning what's left over after those expenses to make that item? Take the time to understand these numbers, get comfortable with them, and then price your products in a way that not only covers these costs, but also incorporates that reasonable margin. If that means raising your prices, do it. The right customers will see the value in what you're offering. And if that means focusing on fewer, higher margin products, that's okay too. And here's the thing. Realistic expectations around profitability are just as important. If you're a brand new business, don't expect to be profitable right out of the gate. Remember, studies show that the average small business doesn't see real profitability until at least the second or third year. If you get there earlier, fantastic. And while print on demand definitely offers lower startup costs and much faster paths to revenue compared to traditional businesses, it's still not an instant cash machine. And here's the critical point. And please hear me when I say this with all of the love in my heart. If you're in a position where you need immediate cash flow to cover life's expenses, starting a new business cannot be your only solution. It's not that you can't or shouldn't start a business. It's that starting with the mindset of desperation can lead to rushed decisions, unrealistic goals, hurried products, and frustration. I've seen it happen too many times. Instead, consider addressing immediate financial needs with other solutions, whether that's a part-time job, freelance work, or another source of income, while building your business with a sustainable, long-term mindset. Number 5, set boundaries. If you're feeling burnout creeping in, the first step is to reassess your workload and time management. Take a little break. Ask yourself, are your goals realistic? For example, if you have a plan to add new products, does it align with the time and energy you truly have available? One way to lighten the load is by batching similar tasks, like creating multiple designs or drafting several listings in one focused session. Batching not only saves time, but also reduces the mental energy spent switching between tasks, helping you stay more productive and less frazzled. Batching works for other things too. Think social media or customer responses. Another powerful tool is time blocking, which really goes right along with batching. Set aside specific hours for specific tasks or theme days, whether it's designing, listing, researching, or planning your products. This focused approach helps keep you organized and avoids the overwhelm of trying to do everything all at once. But just as important as planning your work time is setting off-the-clock hours. Designate evenings or weekends or any consistent blocks of time as non-work time to recharge. Leave that white space in your calendar when you're planning your weeks. When you respect those boundaries, you give yourself the space to rest, recover, and come back with renewed energy. But boundaries aren't just about managing time. They're also about protecting your focus. This means learning to say no to distractions or opportunities that may not align with your bigger goals. As small business owners, it's tempting to say yes to everything. Every new idea, collaboration, or shiny strategy that promises quick success. But every yes comes with a cost, usually your time, energy, or resources. By staying laser focused on what moves the needle for your business, you'll make real progress without stretching yourself too thin. Now keep in mind, saying no doesn't mean you're missing out. It means you're prioritizing what truly matters. If an opportunity arises, ask yourself, does this align with my goals? Will it get me closer to where I want to be? If the answer is no, or even not right now, it's okay to decline. Remember, building healthier habits and setting these kinds of boundaries isn't just about avoiding burnout, it's about creating a sustainable workflow that supports your long-term success. It allows you to stay focused, productive, and aligned with the vision you have for your business. Number 6, find your people. Burnout, fear of failure, and self-doubt thrive in isolation. When you are stuck in your head, struggling through challenges alone, it's easy to convince yourself that you're the only one who hasn't figured it out. But let me let you in on a little secret. In the entrepreneurial world, that's simply not true. Every business owner faces their own messy middle, whether they're just starting out, scaling up, or pivoting to something new. The key is to remind yourself that you're not alone, and the best way to do that is by finding your people. When you surround yourself with others who get it, it's like stepping into a room where the weight is lifted. These are the people who can celebrate your wins, no matter how small, because they know how much effort it took to get there. They're also the ones who will empathize with your struggles, offer advice, support, or just a listening ear when you need it most. Start small. Join a group or a community of fellow entrepreneurs, whether it's focused on your niche, business model, or even just general small business ownership. Engage in those spaces, not just by asking questions, but by supporting others too. There's something powerful about giving and receiving encouragement from people walking the same path. It's one of the reasons why I created my own Simply Thrive Club for the print-on-demand sellers that I work with. Now, if online communities aren't really your thing, consider reaching out to a mentor or coach, someone who's been where you are and can provide guidance and perspective. And don't underestimate the power of a trusted friend, even if they're not in the business world. Sometimes just having someone to talk to, vent, or brainstorm with can make all the difference. Connection is one of the most powerful antidotes to the doubts and struggles of entrepreneurship. It gives you perspective, a sense of belonging, and most importantly, a reminder that you don't have to do this alone. When you find your people, you find a source of strength and inspiration that can carry you through the messy middle and beyond. And finally, number 7, embrace the learning curve. You're going to make mistakes. That's part of the process. Every successful entrepreneur has. Fail forward, fail fast, learn faster. Mistakes can feel overwhelming in the moment, especially when they cost you time or money. But they're also going to be some of the best teachers you'll ever have. Whether you're just starting your business or you've been at it for a while, mistakes mean you're learning. Here's an example. Maybe you launched a product that didn't sell as well as you'd hoped. Instead of labeling it a failure, look deeper. Did you target the right audience? Was your listing optimized with the right keywords? Were there tweaks you could have made to the design or price point? Your answers will hold clues for how to do better next time. Because here's the thing, whether you're at the beginning of starting your business or you're navigating changes mid-journey, the act of taking action and finding the courage to keep going is what sets successful entrepreneurs apart. Feeling stuck or making mistakes doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It means you're in the middle of the process, and that's where growth happens. You're not supposed to know everything right out of the gate. Entrepreneurship is about learning as you go, and every step, forward or backward, is still progress. It's all in how you learn from it and choose to keep pushing forward. It's about choosing to thrive anyway, despite the setbacks. So, whether you're celebrating a win or dusting yourself off after a misstep, keep going. The journey isn't about being perfect. It's about growing stronger, smarter, and more resilient every single day. If there's one thing I want you to take away from this episode, it's this. Building a business you love and can stick with is absolutely possible. It's not about being perfect. It's about showing up consistently, learning along the way, and giving yourself the grace to grow. You are capable of incredible things. Keep showing up, keep trying, and trust that with consistency and intention, you'll create something amazing. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Thrive Anyway. If you found today's conversation helpful, I'd love for you to share it with your favorite business bestie or leave a review on your favorite podcast platform wherever you're tuning in. Your support helps me reach more entrepreneurs just like you. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. I'll be back in the next one with more tips, stories, and encouragement. Until then, keep showing up, keep taking action, and choose to thrive anyway.